Thank you all for coming. Getting kind of diligent up in here. Folks are coming with good consistency, and I really appreciate that. There is sort of an additive effect to consistent sitting, and I always encourage folks to sit for less time more often than for more time less often. You know, doing 2 hours a week on one day is not nearly as useful as doing an hour a week split up over 7 days. Just because the more you come back to the cushion, right? We talk about taking refuge in the Dharma. You know, take refuge in the Dharma, we take refuge in the teachings, right? Take refuge in the Buddha, right? We take refuge in our enlightened nature. Take refuge in the Sangha, right? We take refuge in our community. What are we taking refuge from? Like, we're taking refuge from literally everything else, right? Like, look around, you know, what's going on everywhere, right? There's desires are boundless, right? So there's plenty of opportunity to paddle in the direction of delusion. And so whether that's driven by things that are external circumstances or things that are coming up from within, we can take refuge. We can stop. We can sit down on our cushion. We can be right here. We can ask the question, you know, who is this bag of skin that's sitting here? What's going on? So to that end, I brought a koan to share with you all. Let's see where we take a look at this and see where we end up. So Master Ikkyu was a Japanese Zen teacher who lived from 1394 to 1481. And he's quite famous. He's in the Rinzai school, which is the school where a lot of our koans come from. And he's quite famous for being unbelievably irreverent. And for breaking a lot of the traditions. Like, he became a Zen teacher, received Dharma transmission, and then he was found to have like left the monastery, and he would like write poems, and he would like go eat sushi, and he wrote poems about how delicious sushi was. And so sort of a crazy wisdom teacher poet. But there's a koan that is associated with him, and it goes like this. A student said to Master Ikkyu, "Please write for me something of great wisdom." So someone comes up to him, and they know he's a poet and an artist, and he's famous for his calligraphy, right? And so the student says, "Please write for me something of great wisdom." Ikkyu picked up his brush and wrote a word, "attention." The student said, "Is that all?" The master wrote, "Attention, attention." The student became irritable. "That doesn't seem profound or subtle to me." In response, Ikkyu wrote, "Attention, attention, attention." In frustration, the student remarked, "What does the word attention mean?" Ikkyu replied, "Attention means attention." Attention. So, your attention is your life, right? What you pay attention to is your life, right? When you look at your phone and watch videos, that's where your attention is. That is your life, right? You play a musical instrument and you're attending to the notes. That's your life. When you have a client in the room and they're crying and you're attending to them, that's your life. When the news is like, blah, 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 you know, terrible things, and you're like feeling anxious, and that your attention is on that information, which is causing the reaction that you're having. That's your life. It's one of the few things where we can say that there is no time at which what you have your attention on is not your life. And that literally, that's all you have, right? Like, as you go through, like, Ikkyu wasn't writing this, you know, to tell a story 500 years later, right? Ikkyu didn't live in the future. Ikkyu lived in the moment, right? So, just as we do. So, attention. Student said, you know, tell me something profound. And he's expecting a zinger, right? He's expecting some cool Buddhist wisdom statement. You know, oh, the true nature of the self, right? Some Dogen stuff, you know, to study the self is to forget the self, you know, cool stuff like that. And, you know, Ikkyu's just like, hey, right here. It's right here. And so it's funny because, of course, in our society, we talk about attention deficit disorder. And, our society does have an attention deficit disorder, but it's not the mental illness, right? It's not a deficit of attention, it's that we focus on all the wrong things. Right? Whoever dies with the most toys wins. Right? Where's your focus? What are you attending to? Can you attend, right? Can you attend to the dishes? Like, what is your attention tolerance? Can you tolerate attending to difficult things? When someone's being difficult, can you attend? Right? Can you show up, like 100%, like right there? One of the things I found exceptionally challenging in my life is that my mom had a tendency to sort of go on and on and on with streams of like criticism. And so, I would shut her down. But that caused me to create a habit of, if people started saying things I don't like or disagree with, I'll shut them down, right? And I'm articulate and I think quite quickly, both of which are, sort of earned defense mechanisms. And so if someone's saying something I don't agree with, I'll just shut them down. I can be louder, I can think quicker, I can be more articulate, I can argue faster, I can make sure that, but what is that, right? I don't want to pay attention to what you have to say because I've already decided I don't like it. And here's why you're wrong, and here's all the reasons. Ha, I win. Attention, right? Where's the attention there, right? What's interesting is it's impossible for delusion to survive in the light of sustained attention, right? If you pay attention to what's happening outside of you, then what you'll recognize is that you're not separate from what's happening, right? It's not actually outside, right? You have a reaction. And if you pay attention to what's coming up within you, then what's within you stops driving the train, right? We stop being driven by our internal responses and we start being driven by, we stop being driven, right? Instead of being driven around like an ox with a ring in its nose, pulled around by our reactions, we start having choices, right? So we'd almost say that we're the ones driving our own awareness. We're the ones driving ourselves, right? Our enlightened nature gets into the driver's seat. Talking to someone today, and I was talking about Zen stuff, and I said, there's sort of two pillars of enlightenment, right? One pillar is emptiness, and the other is karma, right? And so emptiness means that there's no fixed self, there's no fixed thing, there's no fixed identity, whether it's a brick or you or a cat, right? It's not fixed, it's formless, it's empty, it's on its way to something else, it's not fixed. And that's true of people too, right? We want to tell stories, we want to fix people, right? We want to, especially people in our lives who frustrate us, right? We want them to be fixed. And the other thing we want is we want cause and effect to not be true, right? We want to do what we want to do and not have it cause things to happen that we don't want. And the way that karma and emptiness relate to each other is that the reason that the people around you are the way they are is because of cause and effect. Right? So they have conditioning based on past experiences, and they are who they are, and they react how they react because of their experiences, because of all the causes and effects that they've experienced in their life. And those are timeless and interconnected with everything else, right? And so when you start thinking in this way, the image you have of someone as whatever you conceptualize them to be gets replaced by the fact that they aren't that, right? They're just an ocean of karmic responses appearing in this moment, right? We call this dependent co-arising, right? So in other words, I show up to the moment with all of my karma, and you show up to the moment with all of your karma, and we start to interact, right? And now everything is co-arising. We ourselves are, who we are in this moment is co-arising right here. And it's the thing that's never existed before. And then we get to choose, right? Do we work skillfully with it or not? Like someone cuts me off in traffic, right? Dependent co-arising, right? They cut me off in traffic because of who knows what. They were thinking about their friend, or they were stressed, or they weren't paying attention. Whatever all the causes and effect that caused them to not notice me, right? Existed. And then here I am, and I've showed up at that spot with all of my stuff. So then, and I'm like, ah, right? What is that, right? It's co-arising. That's arising in me because they arose in my field. But all of that can be liberated. All of that is free of any fixed form. And so I don't have to flick them off, right? I don't have to be dragged around by the ring in my nose. I don't have to be an ox. I can be a human being. Attention, right? What's there right now? What's coming up for me? Who am I blaming in the moment? Whose fault is this? Because none of this matters unless we're suffering, right? When we're not suffering, it's really easy, right? If I bring in someone to give everyone a back massage, right, no one's going to be worried about attention, right? It's quite easy to, someone's rubbing your shoulders, it's like, oh, attention. Right? But attention is like the currency of our world. Everyone is looking all the time, right? I mean, more and more attention is the currency of our world. Look at me. Look at me. I saw this thing on the internet where apparently now, when I went to college, I was not in a fraternity or sorority. Well, obviously I wasn't in a sorority, but I was not in a fraternity. I chose to go to a college that didn't have them because I didn't want to deal with Greek life. Because even as a college student, I just looked at that and I was like, it seems like a lot of drinking, and I'm just not down for that. The partying seems superficial and upsetting and addictive, and I'm not down. But I have seen on the internet that now, all of these fraternities and sororities are doing these huge dance numbers on social media to attract people to come rush for their fraternity and sorority. And they're pretty highly produced, right? And so it's like, look at us! It's like attention, show me. So who is it you're presenting when you want others to look at you, right? Or who is it you're not presenting when you don't want to be seen? Right? What are you hiding from the world, right? What are you showing to the world? Because all of that is your karma, right? All of that is the things you want to hide from others, and the things that you want to show. All of those things are just based on cause and effect, what happened before and what's happening in the future. But they're also not who you are. So they can be liberated. You can let them go. You can say, well, wait a minute. What is it I'm actually embarrassed about? What is it that's actually the problem? That's not even me. It's only a problem. Bringing light into the dark places of my life is only a problem if I think that shows others there's something about me that's no good. It's a tricky equation. In one way it's quite simple. Just attend. Just pay attention to what's happening, right? Come back. Pay attention to how you feel. Pay attention to how you feel when you drive home. Pay attention to how you feel when you wash the dishes. Pay attention to how you feel when you don't wash the dishes. Pay attention to how the people in your life feel. If you start attending, weird things start happening. Because what happens is you start showing up for the people in your life, right? Look them in the eye. See what is going on. be right here. You know, you've got, and we only have sort of so much time, right? So when I say attention is your life, like, what do you want to spend your life on? Right? And who is it that's, you know, who is it that's looking at, who is it that's attending? Who is it that's showing up? Look, look.